liberal economic policies have failed Nigeria. I want to be able to see the president saying, yes, Africa growth, we have disagreements, but I am elected to uphold the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not of Africa Charter. We would relate with other countries. The days must be over where we talk of Africa as the centerpiece of our foreign policy, a way to one in which Nigeria and the welfare and the well-being of Nigeria is the central focus of Nigeria foreign policy. If it is not good for Nigeria, we will do it. How can you subscribe to something that you cannot participate in? How can you have a free market where you only buy but you have nothing to sell? And the only thing we have to sell is crude. And that crude is not determined competitively. It is determined by some forces in the West, whether the president of the US is sick or whether the publish of data, it shows that economy is slowing down, that affects the price of oil, whether China is growing or China is slowing down, and all of that. And so the result is that today, we are importers of, from the lowest second-hand time, we started borrowing. And to encourage us to borrow more, economists tell us about how much you can borrow in relation to GDP. They'll always have some statistics as if this were in the holy documents. And so we borrowed to a point that they now came back to say, you have overborrowed. And for us to support you, you must devalue your currency. You must float it. Thus subsidize consumption. And when you devalue your home, goods and services produced at home will be cheaper, and therefore you have greater export opportunities. Because Nigeria-made goods, we find cheaper prices overseas, and foreign goods will be too expensive for the natives to buy, since we are now in our native land. And because they can't buy, we've got to have a more realistic balance of trade. And that is how around 1978 or so, the naira was devalued from where it was 1 naira to 1.5 US dollars. When I went to UK to pay my school fees in the UK, I got my check from, I believe, Barclays Bank, which is now Union Bank. And I said, if indeed there is such thing as a visible hand, why do we elect a president? Why do we elect a government? The market, by its nature, is not accountable, except to the buyer and the seller. But we elect governments that are accountable, that we should be held responsible for our collective well-being. And so when I heard him today say what he said, I said, then I'm not exactly crazy. So I am going to start my conversation, not a lecture, just a discussion the way we used to do under the village tree, you know, because my father was he's the greatest teacher, and my mom, assistant teacher. Between the two, everything I have, they are responsible. I think that if we take a critical look at where we're coming from, Nigeria was at its best when, I believe sensibly, and when we celebrate China, we just look at the outcome without looking at the system that produced that outcome. The Chinese also go to the World Bank. They also go to the IMF meeting. They listen. When they finish, they say, thank you. They go back to Beijing and do what they call capitalism with Chinese characteristics. The interest rate is not market-driven. The rate you change your money in hotel is the same rate you change it in the bank. I know it because I have been there. That is not market forces. That is state regulation. And when a state functionally abuse power, they execute. They kill. And so, without following Western models, China has become, over a period of 15 to 20 years, they had double-digit growth consistently, not based on market liberal models. When Washington insists that the Chinese currency is overvalued, the Chinese reply, it is not the foreigner who will tell us the value of our currency. In Nigeria, our people will go to the World Bank and IMF, they will tell us what they think we are. And we celebrate that fifth rate, what they call them now, they have these funny, not funny names, well-known names in West, that they have given us B+, B-, B+++. What the hell does it matter? We are to rate who we are, not foreigners. And until we return back to this homegrown policy and damn the consequences with the world, because they are going to fight us, I do not think that romancing with them is going to deliver us. No, it will not. And they will turn around to accuse us of corruption. And yet every kobo stealing are kept abroad is in their banks. But they are not corrupt. If we recognize that we were at our best when the Nigerian state make policies that are informed by the Nigerian condition, then let us revert back to that. If we don't, free market, these liberal, neoliberal economic policies that Amadi was speaking about can never deliver prosperity to the majority of our people. It is based on the principle, whether stated or implied, survival of the fittest. If you are poor, it is your fault. If you survive, you are intelligent. And we have smart guys who manipulate the banking system, etc., they become billionaires overnight. So I think it is not late for us. And I'm happy that we have a president with huge courage to take decisions. And my hope is that over the next 2-3 years, Amadi said something that some of the decisions the president has taken, people will wonder, does this man want second term? But like it is said, a petty, narrow-minded politician who is seeking power for his own sake, think of the next election. A statesman who wants the best for his country will speak about what works for his country, regardless of the consequences. There are many of us who want to have the best of homeland, but don't touch our eggs. But every president that wants to serve his people, good homeland knows that he must break somebody's eggs, if however powerful that person is. So today, that national item that we are reverting to, a country in which no one shall be oppressed. I know that is, I have been fighting oppression because that is what the national item tells us. A country where no one is oppressed. Today, oppression is the name of the game. Somebody will tell you, I will teach you a lesson. And with a connection with the DPU, it can teach you much more lessons than you ever imagine. So where is the rule of law? There are so many. I'm not in the interior, and I have a way to interact with people who are managing our, quote, correctional homes. We change it from prison to correctional home to emphasize that prison is not meant to kill. But I discovered through my interrogation of those managing the place that we even care better for dogs than Nigerian prisoners. And the bad news, 50% out of the 80,000 prisoners, 50% are awaiting trial. They have not been convicted. Yet under our laws, they are presumed innocent until found guilty. And yet these people will be fed, although the president has increased it now, 250 naira a meal, including water, and 750 naira a day. Anyway, let's move on. My thesis is that for us to revert, for us to secure the future, we must interrogate the immediate past. And one of the things we can't escape from is that the liberal economic policies have failed Nigeria. For example, last week, I found out that an Indian guy is building an integrated textile factory in Benin Republic. You will wonder why I keep talking about textile factory, not only because I work there, but it's a labor-intensive industry where few bank clerks will generate the billions that the banks announce. For a textile factory to make billions of naira in profit, it must employ thousands of people working 24/7. running 4 shifts. Now, taking advantage of the African Free Trade Agreement, this India has successively located a huge textile factory in Benin Republic. The market is Nigeria. I want to be able to see the president saying, yes, Africa, we have these agreements, but I am elected to uphold the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not of Africa Charter. We would relate with other countries. The days must be over when we talk of Africa as the centerpiece of our foreign policy, a way to one in which Nigeria and the welfare and the well-being of Nigeria is the central focus of Nigeria foreign policy. If it is not good for Nigeria, we would do it. We would do it. After all, our students, some of you here, we all contributed money for the liberation of South Africa. We naturalized British petroleum. That was the peak of our power. To teach the British a lesson. Can we teach them a lesson? Not Obasanjo. Oh, okay, Obasanjo, military is forthcoming. And we had the power to say, the principle, no, if you support apartheid, we take over your company. And we did. Today, when I hear that the current president of South Africa, in one of his campaigns before this last one, was saying that Nigerians were taking the job of South Africa. That is how those attacks on Nigeria's small businesses, they were instigated by the state. We helped them to get their freedom, but that does not mean they will allow us to come and dominate their economy. But they are dominating our economy, if you know how much MTN is cutting away every year. So for me, I am advocating that after this 1 year, the president should sit down, government, all of us in the Senate, in the National Assembly, and identify those things, those industries that we need to reinvent, to return back to Nigeria, using our population as a tool to get them back here. 200 million people, if 50%, 100, is wearing Nigerian-made clothes, we will have more than 10 million people working in Nigeria. Government will not be the source of job creation. When we talk about overhead, the governance, is because we have so many institutions, so many desks, try to create opportunities for everybody to work for government. And government is not the best employer in terms of salary. The job may be guaranteed, because whether you work or not, you can be selling t-shirt part-time, but you are not going to be worthy. You just lay down to steal, and that is it. Because I didn't write anything down specifically, but let me just take you through when people talk about the public sector, why this president has a lot to do. And I'm happy he always assures us nobody should pity him, because he didn't take this job in error. He actually struggled for it. He even had to say a miloko. That's why there is power of the tongue. When somebody said, we shouldn't run our country. If we run our country with our mouth, so be it. If we insist that we are the hope of the world, there is power in our tongue. That will come to pass. I would like us going forward to say to Machelin, you left Nigeria, but you are still selling tires to Nigeria. 90% of your market is Nigeria. You relocated to another African country. You won't be able to sell in Nigeria unless you relocate. Government will give you state guarantees. And if you can imagine that all the tires that we are importing and using to drive all our vehicles, if half of them were made in Nigeria, millions of jobs will be created. There are no miracles. It's policy that leads to certain outcome. And these guys will not come voluntarily. They have to be used, they have to be sanctioned. You want to come to my house? This is the gate. I will not buy food from you unless you cook it in my kitchen. Mr. Dunlop, you were in Ikeja. You left. With renewed hope, come back. I will give you guarantees. Otherwise, you will not be allowed to export buyers to Nigeria. The big one. Toyota, if you go to government houses alone, myself including when I was in government, you will think we are car dealers. The number of Toyota vehicles in Nigeria. How about? We started sensibly, ironically under a military government, that given our population, we need to have Peugeot automobile here. Peugeot car was once a very popular car. It doesn't die. If the engine knocks, you cut it 02, 03, 04. Right? And Peugeot located in Kaduna, and they employed about 3,500 workers, producing about 200-300 cars a day. I went there to organize a couple of strikes when they refused to pay our people well. So I know what I'm talking about. Then we had Volkswagen in Lagos, where Patutomi was GMD at the age in his 30s, employing about 3,000 to 4,000 people. Volkswagen in Lagos. Then we have Mercedes-Benz in Enugu producing trucks. We had Leyland in Ibadan, and the other one in Bauchi producing tractors. So even federal character was going to take into account. How did they disappear? Free market. Don't control. We belong to WTO. No country can be island to itself. We can't be island to ourselves. If opening up brings impurities into our system and kill our job and destroy our industries, we need to revert to the past. And that is why when we celebrate China, we just look at the outcome without looking at the system that produced that outcome. The Chinese also go to the World Bank. They also go to the IMF meeting. They listen. When they finish, they say thank you. They go back to Beijing and do what they call capitalism with Chinese Kawasaki 6. The interest rate is not market-driven. The rate you change your money in hotel is the same rate you change it in the bank. I know it because I have been there. That is not market forces. That is state regulation. And when a state functionary abuse power, they execute. They kill. And so, without following Western models, China has become, over a period of 15 to 20 years, they had double-digit growth consistently, not based on market liberal models. When Washington insists that the Chinese currency is overvalued, the Chinese reply, it is not the foreigner who will tell us the value of our currency. In Nigeria, our people will go to the World Bank and IMF, they will tell us what they think we are. And we celebrate that fifth rate, what they call them now, they have these funny, not funny names, well-known names in West, that they have given us B+, B-, B+++. What the hell does it matter? We are to rate who we are, not foreigners. And until we return back to this homegrown policy and damn the consequences with the world, because they are going to fight us, I do not think that romancing with them is going to deliver us. No, it will not. And they will turn around to accuse us of corruption. And yet every kobo stealing are kept abroad is in their banks. But they are not corrupt. Now, let me conclude. What is going on evil now? That is why when you say we should pray for the president, you were right. I am not a fanatic when it comes to, because I don't believe that just be godly